So for today's presentation, as I said, we have Derek, Konstantin, and Julia from TPT, who are going to provide us insight into how their software is working to bring greater efficiencies to the events world. In the events business, there's a saying that it all begins and ends with transportation. As event managers know, having an efficient, well-run transportation system and motor pool fleet operations can determine your event's success or failure. So TPT Hub software coordinates the registering vehicles and drivers, scheduling of vehicles and drivers, tracking of vehicles and drivers, and many, many more areas. As an enterprise resource planning software, TPT Hub simplifies these challenges of managing vehicle fleets, logistics, and staff scheduling for a multitude of industries. With its built-in CRM software, the TPT Hub system can manage large volumes of data in an efficient manner. This allows companies to work smarter, to work not harder, and save an unneeded cost. Born out of frustration of managing complex transport systems over the decades with spreadsheets, like I mentioned before, Excel, we need to just really get out of that Excel mode. TPT Hub showed its effectiveness by managing the match hospitality transport program for both the 2017 FIFA Confederations Cup and FIFA World Cup in Russia 2018. Their software currently manages the Expo 2020 Dubai fleet operations, and additional clients will be announced soon. So without further delay, I'm gonna pass on the floor to Derek, which you can already see in the screen. Hi, Derek.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to hang out and learn more about our system. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ignites, for having us on board. We're TPT Hub, and our job is to present intelligent software solutions to make your transport and logistics operations work smarter and not harder. And getting into things, we'll present our team. And so you can see here our team consists of Julia Voronova, Konstantin Voronov, and myself. So Julia, Kos, say hi to everybody.
Hello, guys. Thank you for joining to see our presentation.
So we're, like you said, we'll kind of go into in terms of how it all began for us. So in terms of everything with our TPT Hub, it all started out of the Winter Olympics in Russia, Sochi 2014, where I was the Director of Victory Ceremonies Transport and Medaling Athlete Transportation. And I hired Julia and Konstantin to work with me on the system. And as Neo eloquently put it, is I was running the system on Google Docs, which I imagine many people on here are very familiar with running some of their operations off of that. So since the inception of the medaling athlete system back in 2002 Salt Lake Olympics with my counterpart, Mike Whitty and Tony Vitrano, we ran a lot of things pretty much off of the spreadsheets and coordinating the movements of the athletes for various Olympic Games. And once we got done with the Olympic Games in Russia, Konstantin, who's a computer programmer, learned that basically there's got to be a better way than just relying on Excel spreadsheets. So he went off and after the games were done and kind of brought a system to bear about a year and a half later. And we started testing things around. And then what happened is in 2017, I was brought on board by FIFA to be venue management for the Confederations Cup in Sochi. And Confederations Cup was in 4 cities in St. Petersburg, Russia, Moscow, Sochi, and Kazan. And Kos was brought on board with Match Hospitality Group because they had to manage the transport for all their movements of all their sponsors and all their folks that were coming in to watch the matches from the different countries and need the system. And when they began, it was starting out with spreadsheets. And when he came on board, he had his system, said, let's use our system for this. And it was agreed upon, and with much faith on their part, the system worked out extremely well as a test run before the World Cup matches would take place in Russia in 2018. After the event was done in Russia for Confederations Cup in 2017, we went back and kind of retooled things because we were getting ready again for the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea. So I was brought on board by the IOC to go and manage that system. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a comparative analysis between the system that I was running it on since the Salt Lake Games and start utilizing our TPT Hub software, kind of shadowing that and mirroring it. And that was the first true test in the Olympic environment where it worked out extremely well. We're, again, working smarter, not harder. My staff, my Korean staff that worked with me, realized the benefits of it because they got to go out and have more fun outside of work instead of sitting in front of spreadsheets and trying to figure things out. And then obviously, then it came time for FIFA World Cup in Russia, and Konstantin and the TPT Hub system and Julia were all of us were involved. I, again, venue management in Sochi. Julia was in 3 southern cities in Russia, managing that match hospitality transport, and Konstantin was based in Moscow, running the operations there. And we were in 17 cities, managing all the operations throughout Russia in 4 time zones with our system. And it worked out fantastic at the conclusion of it. And then after World Cup was done, we were approached in 2019 by Expo 2020 here in Dubai, and they needed a system to run their fleet operations. And one of the individuals, a couple of the individuals actually, who were part of the World Cup side, utilized our system and wanted it to manage it here. So we're currently here in Dubai. This is where all 3 of us are currently based. And our TPT Hub company is based here in Dubai, and it has been a great experience. But now, obviously, as many have learned, it has been postponed for an additional year. And when many contracts were not moving forward, our software is continuing moving forward, and we're quite proud of that. So in essence, that's kind of gives you a background in terms of how it all began. And a lot of people ask, well, what is TPT Hub? You know, we're trying to explain it. So kind of in a short term, it's kind of a single platform that provides basically complete visibility and control of your transportation operations. And as we go through the presentation, we'll be able to explain to you a little bit more what it is. It's basically a hybrid of kind of an enterprise resource platform software and a CRM. So basically, for those that don't know what an ERP is, it's like a system that ties together a multitude of businesses, processes, which enables the flow of data between all the different processes that are part of it. So when you look at it, you have your managing company, you have your clients, you have your vendors, and then you have all the different departments that populate those particular constituent groups and those groups of folks, individuals. So you can kind of see from the managing company, you have the HR side, whether it's the HR of the company or a third party that provides staff and support for that. You have your account managers, your dispatchers, your transport managers, your finance managers. And on the client side, we kind of grouped all them into one managers, but they too have their own persons on board that kind of deal in the same thing as a managing company. And then on the vendor side, you have their managers, whether it's finance or transport managers or dispatchers, and then you have the drivers themselves. And as we kind of go along, you kind of see how all of our system helps support this, but everything of our system is an interlink between all these different constituent groups. In terms of the services that we provide, in terms of the TPT, again, it's a multitude of services. The main operations that we have right now is a fleet management system, and that operates anything from a motor pool fleet to a motor coach fleet to bus companies, convention services, whatever that may be. The fleet management kind of lump it all into there, but our system can handle all that. It has a very robust arrivals and departures system that ties, again, into the fleet management system. We also deal with delivery management in terms of logistics operations for material delivery schedule or DMS, delivery management system. Our system also interlinks between logistics and fleet and delivery of products. We also deal with staff scheduling. It's just not drivers. You're dealing with, as we call it, boots on the ground in the transportation industry. You're dealing with how to manage all those people and tie all of them into how they operate within the transport or arrivals and departures component. And again, we'll explain a little bit more. Upcoming, we have already started the process prior to us being here in Dubai, but we'll be developing a VAP management system that deals with how VAPs are allocated and who they're allocated to and how the constituent groups and how VAPs, and as we've learned here in Dubai, there's a different way of thinking that's going into where the events world is going as it relates to the VAP management side of things. And we'll kind of touch upon that in a little bit. And then another thing that we're getting into also in development of is a transport rate card system. And for those that don't know, a rate card system, think of it as during an Olympic Games or a large scale event. It's basically rental of equipment. And in the transport side, it's rental of the vehicles. So you may have a fleet of 5,000 vehicles donated by a certain automobile manufacturer. They'll segment off maybe 500 vehicles, and those are used to be rented out to broadcast or other constituent groups of an Olympic Games, for instance. And so our system also can manage a rate card system, and we're in the process of developing that. So in terms, that's the services that we provide out to the industry at this point in time, and then continually expanding based upon the needs and wants of the clients that we have. So basically, in terms of our system, this is what we're going to demonstrate for you now is the login in terms of how our demo system is set up. So once you log into the TPT Hub system, you'll go in and then you'll come into the welcome screen, and you'll have a driver declaration form, which deals with the new bookings or the current activity. So when dispatch logs in or any client groups, they can look up different requests for the plate numbers, they can look up vehicles and see where the current activity is at this time in the driver declaration form. Once you log into the system, what we did to kind of simplify how we move around our system is that basically the main sections of our TPT Hub system is the FMS dashboard, Fleet Management System dashboard. We have our bookings, we have our assignments, and these are the green dots in the middle, and then the shifts. And then we have subsections that deal with the people component, which are the users, the partners, the drivers, the host/staff, and the passengers. And then you have vehicles in the vehicles and services section, equipment types, the vehicle rates, the service types. Then you have your locations, which is the cities that you're going to operate in, the venues, the parking lots, and the parking requests in the purple. And the additional features, which are the addresses, the languages of the staff and drivers they speak, the triggers, or tags as we call them, signage for particular moves, special dates, and a library, because our system is also a document storage that can be assigned to any particular task. So the first thing we'll dive into is kind of the Fleet Management System dashboard. And when a dispatcher logs in, this is one of the things that they will see most of the time. Now, again, our system can be tailored to any type of information that a fleet management manager wants brought up. So again, you can kind of see here the main system is, this is how it looks like. And then also the important thing is that you can filter information based upon, and in any area within our system, there's always filters. So as you can see here, this is kind of give you a demonstration of the filtering system that we have set up. And there's pretty much set parameters where it says add parameters, ID, show items, the city and service type and status. Then what you can do is you can add parameters based upon that will help you find and sort data. And you can kind of see from the drop-down menus, you can add those different areas, and you can kind of see on the screen already is when we click itinerary, we click driver, we click pool, those will automatically show up. They'll give you means and ways that you can go and sort your data. And then when you go back to the dashboard, again, it's showing you the live information throughout the day. And obviously it can control the vehicle moves, and it gives you the transfer status. And then also what you have as part of your system is you have a dispatchers can track the vehicle movements through what we call our bar system and time grid. And what you can see in the time grid, it works according to the time zone. So the red line represents the live time that it currently is. In the case of the World Cup, we had 4 time zones that we had to operate in. And so dispatch works and operates within the time zone that they're assigned to. And then what you'll do is then you'll go, and the colors mean statuses of where things are. Purple will mean that's inactive, green means it's an active status, and we'll go a little bit more into detail of that down the line in the presentation. Also, you have a map for tracking, so you can track all your vehicles where they are at any time and location. and through that, and you can get status updates. And when you click on those vehicles, a screen will pop up and explain information about what's going on with that particular vehicle and who's in it. You also have a chat window that's used by the dispatchers and drivers. And so that means a tracking communication and how they check in and check out. Do they have their passengers or not? And the constant flow of communication that they have, again, using this whole dashboard system. And kind of play on that, when you go on to the lines there in the terms, if you hover over any line, it'll give you a status box that'll drop down, and it'll give you the information about, in kind of a short version form, about the driver information, the reason for the booking, where it's coming from, the allocated group that provided the vehicle or vendor, the vehicle type and whatnot. And then at the end, you can kind of see at the end of every line, there's an ID code. When you click on the ID code, it'll bring up the booking of that particular vehicle. So again, you can see the status where the vehicle is. You can see the information on it. You can see the transport board along the top in terms of what its booking is. And then the chat box on the side in more blown up mode. And then in terms of what's going on with regard to that fleet. And then what you can do is, through the drop-down box, you can do version control, because when you're dealing with transport, the challenge you've always had when you're dealing with the spreadsheets is tracking who made the changes and everything. With this, you click down in the box and you can see, even if it's 10 different versions, who made the version, who made the change, when did they make it, and how it impacts the overall operation. So, and again, these last for perpetuity. So these are always embedded within the system and allows you to track your control. Now, we're going to give you an example now in terms of how you add drivers. So the example we're providing here for adding drivers is no different than adding staff, a vehicle, or any other of the other areas that I showed earlier in terms of that. So when you go into add a driver, you click on the driver you're going to add. It'll pop up a screen here where you go, and what you're going to do is, when I showed you that main screen with all those different subsections, before your event pretty much begins, you can go into all those areas, whether it's the managing company, whether it's the client, or it's the vendor. They can log into the TPT Hub system and they can enter in all the information. They can enter in the vendors. You can enter the names of the drivers, their driver's licenses, all the vehicles and the vehicle types and their tag numbers and all of that. So all this information now is pre-populated in advance, whether it's done manually or you can put it in batch and spreadsheets and upload it into a system where it auto-populates everything within the system. So now when it comes time to add drivers, you can go and you can click down in terms of who the vendor is for particular lines. These are some of the bus companies here in Dubai. You choose a vendor from the drop-down menu, and then it pre-populates it, and then you'll go along, and for instance, you can select the vehicle that the driver is able to drive, a bus, a sedan, SUV, van, passengers. And the clients and the managing company, when we promote this, you can add as many vehicles as you want. It's not conditioned upon what we as TPT Hub think it is. It's whatever you want. And you can kind of see how we have Peter Smith, his date of birth is private. The cities that they can operate in, Dubai, London. He may winter in Dubai and he may drive in London. So you can assign him to those, his address, his shirt size, languages they speak, the hourly rate, the triggers, the driver's license, yes, no, radio, yes, no, shirt, yes, no. And then any additional information, and then if they're active, meaning that they're on the system, or no, they're deactivated for some reason. Then what you do is then you'll go down to the bottom and you can click add. And once you click add, if you have additional drivers, instead of going back in and just going back to the list screen, you just go add one more and you just keep adding people in if you do this manually. And again, we can do the system as well where you can put in spreadsheets of all things and upload it, and then they'll populate it with all this information here. And then you just go to list, and then you can kind of see here, you can see that Peter Smith is now in the system. These are the vehicles where he works under. When you click on the details, it gives you a shortcut version kind of about Peter and some of the little things about Peter. You can go and you click on, and you can edit information about Peter if he changes a phone number and email. And then you can also view in full form, which basically shows you the entire details of Peter, where you can have pictures and driver's licenses information and everything. When you go into vehicles, it's pretty much the same thing. And this is kind of the vehicle dashboard in terms of the vehicles that are currently in our demo system. So you can kind of see that the yellow mark means that you can assign it within the vehicle registration. You can put it as temporarily unavailable. So this Camry sedan is currently unavailable, but you can see the Lexus RX and the Van Hool bus are available now. And then when you go and you log into full view, let's say we want to take a look at this Van Hool line with Emirates, is you click on the full view, and again, this gives you all the information that was entered in when you added the bus. So it has the vendor information, the plate number, its fleet number, so in case it's assigned a separate fleet for an event, you know, the different colors and the different mileage to the next service mileage, what the additional information is in terms of the vehicle activity. You can check it from right in that area. So if it's out for a move, you just click on that and it'll show you exactly where in the marketplace that vehicle is. You can do pictures of the bus. And so this is how we have things set up of adding a vehicle. And again, even if you have a 5,000 vehicle fleet, our system can manage all the details of that. And again, let's say that from the list, you want to sort all the different buses that have tinted windows. Believe it or not, we have some clients that want that information. So when you click on the triggers, you can see that it's tinted windows. You can do it, and you can search through the filter side, and it'll bring up the Van Hool bus. It has tinted. It could print out 50 different buses that have tinted windows, and we have that a lot with Expo because they want to know certain vehicles that are branded and non-branded. So we can sort through all of that, and all that information's in the vehicle areas, as you can see with the triggers there. And now it comes to bookings. The bookings are the things that come in through the managing company. Let's say a client needs to go and they need to make a booking. So basically what we start off here on the left-hand side of the screen is any of these information that is inputted into the system, as much as we say we want to get away from spreadsheets, we still have that there in case people need to download it for, as I call it, brain on paper. When you're out in the field, you need paper on there and you don't have access to a phone or internet, whatnot. And then what you do is when you go to the booking, you'll pick up in the upper left-hand corner. And then what it'll do is it'll do a drop-down menu of all the particular areas, again, that populate our system. And this by no means is a set system. Depending upon the client that we're dealing with, we can add or detract any of these informations as necessary. So you click on the side, it brings you to the drop-down menu. In the menu, you can view all the sections of the system that you need to open. And then on next, in terms of our taskbar, you look at, when you click on that, and it shows you all the online users who currently are on the system. So currently it's Derek, Constantine, and Julia that you can see who's online. And then the next tab with the bell, it brings down, and it's a notification system. So it notifies you when any action is required. So right now, Derek, I'm in marketing, and I have a request into dispatch that I need to have answered. And then Julia from Fleet Operations sent something to dispatch, and Constantine from dispatch. So it basically notifies you when any action within the system is required. Someone made a change, someone had a question, it tracks all that information. Then you're going to go into the task area. And so this task shows you in terms of what your tasks are. The one at the red is a current task. So basically, Derek has something to do for Julia. So the name on the left is the person that has to do that task, and it tells you who you have to do it for. The items in the blue, it has the booking ID number, and it shows Constantine had something that he had needed to do for Derek. And Derek had something to do for Julia, again, pertaining to another move. So what this does is this allows you to dispatch to understand works that they need to do. And this communication doesn't just take place inside the system. It does, but it can also send information out to the real world via email, SMS if necessary. And then what you can do is then the responses all come back into the system. So everything in terms of the conversations that go on throughout come through the system itself. And then when you go on to the partner's reply, it shows you who is still waiting for a response. So again, it provides you a to-do list of things that you need to do as dispatch to get back to the people that still are requesting information. And the beauty about our system too is that if people have information that we still need from them, the system we can set timers. So every hour, every day, it can send information saying, please enter back into the system. We still need information from you to complete the service that the system needs from you. And then when you
Derek?
need to add a booking, yes,
Derek?
yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
On this point, I think it's interesting because I remember that when you actually presented it to us in Ignite, you mentioned that also the drivers, they can interact with the system, meaning they actually have access through their phone, through an application that they can then send information, right? I think this is very interesting for you. Are you going to cover that point as well?
Yes, we will. Yeah, later in the presentation, we'll touch upon that. But again, yeah, and stemming upon what you mentioned there, Neo, is anybody utilizing the system, everybody who's logged in has interaction with the system, whether it's staff, whether it's drivers, whether it's managing company, whether it's the clients, whether it's the vendors. Everybody communicates with everybody through the system. And also related to the booking itself. So if you have a booking that's related to booking number 1 and it's doing an airport run, it can communicate, everybody within that particular movement can communicate with each other through the system, whether it's through the app or through desktop versions. And then later on, Constantine will kind of show you our system that the new chat system we have set up that's more robust than we already have at this point in time. So thank you for bringing it up, Neo. So again, when you're doing a booking, you want to click add. So this is when a client wants, again, these things can all be done manually, like we're showing you here now, or all these can be done in terms of a bulk upload into the system. So as you can kind of see below, this is kind of your bookings boards, as we call them. And so when you click on it, you'll add new booking details. So what city is the booking going to be in? You know, you have your drop-down menus. And then you just click on that. You click on the client that is requesting this, so you can populate it. And again, the vendor dictates to us what all these clients are, or they input all this information as Expo does, where they have a huge list of different clients that they service, and they go and populate it themselves. So again, this is nothing that TPT Hub does. This is all client and vendor and managing company driven. So you click on the communication, you have the vendor, so you can click down in terms of the vendor that you want to utilize for that. And then this kind of shows you in terms of details of the booking itself, the checkout time, the depot time for the driver, the pickup time, the usage time, and what that may be. Then again, because we couldn't show a full view, the screen scrolls down to this, and now you do your pickup location. So when you do the pickup location, you got where it's going to be. And let's say we're here in Dubai, and we have a Spanish group that we're going to be picking up at the terminal. And then what we can also do is on the airplane, we click on the airplane, and now what we can do is we can add the flight information into there. And through the TPT Hub system, we use the FlightAware API, which tracks all the flights and based upon percentages. And so in dispatch, they can track all the flights and see if it's 60% done, 70% complete. And the drivers and the on-the-ground staff through the app on their phone, they'll have access to all this information with constant updates, because the system will constantly update whoever is tied to this particular move. They'll be able to track the flight in that way. And then also on the side, there's a plus sign next to it where you can go and add, I'm sorry, I go back. There's a plus sign where you can go and you can add additional routes in between. So instead of going from the airport to the Hilton Garden Inn, we may need to add an additional stop along the way. And when you do that, you add the stop in, it pre-populated based upon the Google Maps information, and then it gives you the timing of the system itself. And then you can add the passenger count, water if there's water, and police escorts, no police escort, the cost for the client in terms of that. And you can kind of see in terms of the pricing that is based inside the vehicles side of the pricing cost. All that stuff is all populated and configured based upon the timings that you put in the system for that. And then you can scroll down, you can add the host. So Ilva, congratulations, you're a host today. So you click on Ilva, and then you can see Ilva, wow, you're really expensive, Ilva, per hour. So the system calculates based upon the information you added into the host area of what their hourly rate is. The system calculates that, and then you go in as the dispatch or the client can go and input the salary for that duration of that particular event, and it shows the actual job start time and the end time of the scheduled hours, and then you can go in, and then when they clock in and out of the app, which we'll show you in a few moments, that will automatically populate it into there, because then the system automatically here's what the scheduled hours were and here's what the actual hours were. You can deal with the signage files, so everything's tied into the system for the signage. And how many times we've been with events where people didn't bring the sign, people didn't have this. All the signage, again, because our system's a data library, is added to that particular movement. And then in terms of the comments, in terms of the vendor, is this a new reservation where we just are waiting for a few more details on that? Or you can do a draft booking where it's just 3 months down the road, 3 months before the event, you're just you're blocking out these timings because this is currently what you have. And you can change from a draft booking to a new pending booking, from draft bookings to confirm, like, yes, we know that this move is going to have a booking, a demo, or again, the client, we have them tell us how do you want, what's the verbiage that you want, but this gives you the option on that. And then again, you can kind of go in that route. Now what you do is you have a booking. So a client's made a booking, they made a reservation for something. Now it has to deal with assignments. And so the way our system's set up for assignments is that you book assignment to a shift, and basically that's one task or many tasks or one booking or multiple bookings. You put a driver to a shift or a driver to a task or multiple tasks, okay? Then you have vehicles, in which the vehicles are either assigned to a shift or a task as well. And then you have in terms of the shift and the schedule, to the driver and the vehicle. So again, then kind of simplify things, we'll kind of put it in a little graph chart here for you. So basically option one of our system is that driver and a vehicle are assigned to a shift, meaning that you assign one or multiple tasks to be performed. So to give you an example of this is when we used to work on Super Bowl operations, and a good friend Mike Whitty, genius on this system, is you go and you book a bus for 7 days, and you utilize that driver and that bus for multiple tasks or bookings. So basically they're in town, so basically their shift is set because they're in market for a certain time. And then while they're there, they are assigned tasks based upon what is requested from the clients, and then you assign that task to the shift. Then you have the second option, which is a driver is assigned to a shift. So basically you're assigning one or multiple tasks to a driver, and the task can be performed by one or multiple vehicles as per the requirements. I'll use an example of this. At the Sochi Olympics and at the Pyeongchang Olympics, is I have a pool of drivers who are assigned to a schedule. But then these drivers, some of them can only drive SUVs or sedans, but some can drive SUVs, sedans, and they can drive a minibus because they have a license to do that. So that means that I can book those drivers to particular vehicles based upon the qualifications that they have. So again, our system allows you to do that. And then the final option that we have is kind of a driver, or think of it as a freelancer, arrives with his vehicle and the driver performs the task. Kind of think of it as like an Uber type of system that you have in terms of that. And we'll kind of go into that in a little bit here. So those are kind of three things when you're dealing with scheduling and assignments of how we have it set up. And then the important thing is, our good friend George the monkey here reminds us, is that the system also lets you know when you have overtime. And so it alerts you so you can make sure that you save on cost as well. And we'll kind of show this to you here. So this will kind of give you, this is our actual setup of our system here in terms of how we have it set up. So when you look at it, again, everything's color oriented to help guide you and simplify the process itself. So again, the blue represents the shift that is assigned for that particular person. And then you have the actual, the driver is, the the lines exactly explain in terms of the task or the booking or the reservation that is needed for that. And then what you do is you have, you can see here on the top here, you have John Carter. He's on shift because, again, the red line at 1400 hours, that represents the real time. So that means that John Carter is still on shift because the circle designate green, which means that the driver is on shift. And then basically is that the purple line or the pink line shows that that was one of his tasks that he was assigned to. And because it's purple, the driver's off shift, that means he completed that task. So then if you go down a little bit to George Blueberry, he's a wonderful guy. George is a driver, he's on shift, and he may just be sitting in the depot just waiting for a task or a booking to come up that he'll be assigned to the vehicle. So you have drivers of that sort. And then you have an area where it's kind of a mixture of red and pink. And that's an alert to the dispatcher, because what that means is that there's a crossover of timings that overlap. It's meaning that the end of one task and the beginning of another overlap, and it's assigned to the same driver. And so what that does, that alerts dispatch to really look into that to help understand, you know, what is going on out there. And then on line number 2, you can see you got Michael Stone. At the end, on the far end where you see his line, you can see right now he's scheduled to have overtime because the pink line extends past his shift time. But what you do is you see that he finished his shift early. Now that may be because dispatch called him back early, the client didn't need him, and that his circle is purple, so that means he's off shift, so we aren't going to be dealing with overtime. But if it was, that line would change a different color to signify that. So again, you can kind of see based upon the colors and the lines and how that is, this is an easy way for dispatch to understand what they're dealing with as it relates to their assignments that they have for their particular drivers. And you can see that the line shifts based upon the timing. So as you go, the line moves from left to right, and the timing goes that way. Now, what we do is, for instance, we have the kind of give you an example of how we go and book it within a system. As you can see along the top is that we have drive to shift, driver to service, vehicle to shift, vehicle to service agreement. So what we're going to show you here is the service to shift. So we have 3 drivers. We have Julia. Neo, congratulations, you're a driver, and I heard you're an awesome driver. And then we have myself. And then below we have the bookings. So these are what clients are requesting. They're requesting a bus, during that time frame, a sedan, another bus, and a VIP SUV. So what they'll do is when you go into the system, is you click on that, and to assign the task or the booking to a shift with an assigned driver, you the on the bar, and then what happens is you click it. Now what happens is it automatically went to Neo. Why? Because when the black background on the drivers, which is Julia and myself, remember in the driver information, we put what vehicles each driver can drive. So Julia and myself can't drive a bus. So when it comes time for the booking, we can't book it to Julia or myself. We can only book it to Neo for that particular move at that particular shift. So that helps the dispatch understand what's going on. And then, oops, I'm sorry, I'm going back. Sorry, I pushed the wrong buttons. Happens. So once we get the black boxes and we understand that we can't book those for the booking, then you hover the cursor over the shift in the line where you want to assign the task, and you click it twice, and now Neo is assigned to that task during her shift. Now what happens is when, let's say, we have to cancel Neo because the client canceled the task or the booking, whatnot, so dispatch can go in, and all they have to do is just click on the line under Neo. They click the X spot, the cross, and then they go and it puts it back down for another task to be assigned to another driver. And then basically you click off to the side and it returns it to the pink color, so that means it's now available. So that's kind of how we look at assignments and shifts. And then the important thing too with the shift is that when you're dealing with the shifts, is that within the system will send a password and a username and a password to the phone. And we'll demonstrate that with our app here in a few moments. But within the system, you can send, the system can send the information, or dispatch sends the itinerary of when they're going to be working to the folks to their mobile unit. And you can kind of see here that we have to send the password, and then basically it shows that that when the password was sent to Constantine and the status of whether or not he's acknowledged that or not. And now we'll go into kind of the app system that we have. So that's kind of the desktop dispatch system that deals with dealing with the assignments, the task, the dashboard, and all the other subsections within the system. Now it comes time for the user system out in the field. So we have an app that is called Entry Hub, and it's currently going through the approval stages with Google and Apple iOS systems currently. So when you first log onto the app, because the app is, you'll download it from the system from Google and Apple, but you only have to download it once, because all the version controls are not controlled with coming from the App Store. All the version controls come from within the system itself, because the app is basically an overlay on top of the existing system itself. So what you'll do is you'll enter your project code. So whether you're working on the Olympics, you're working on a Super Bowl, you're working on a 5K race or whatever it may be, you'll have a project code that you'll only enter once. And when you enter that project code, it's specific just for that event. So you could have people, you could have 50 different codes, and you'll have 50 different looks when you first log into the app itself. But the most important thing is that when you log into the app for the first time, it'll ask you for that username and password. So for our system, that's pushed from dispatch to their mobile unit. So you can see on the left here is that it shows the charter information for the date that it is. It gives you your login name and your password. You enter into the Entry Hub system, you log it in. And when you first log in, this is a system that sets up, and it first shows your shift, your itinerary for the day. So we basically simplified it here. So this basically shows that when your shift starts, and it tells you what the details of your shift are going to be, the date and time, and it shows, again, this is for a driver. We didn't do it for the staff, we did it for a driver. So you can see that he has a depot checkout time at 1800. He has a pickup time. He has a pickup time of that. So they'll go into here, and then they're going to go, the pickup location is Dubai Mall, Landside D. So after entering their username, they'll get that information. Now what they do is they touch the screen, and then it'll take them to their work assignment. So this would be what this work assignment looks like. And again, the client will dictate to us what they want this to look like. This is just one of the ways that one of our clients wanted things set up for their app. So again, kind of give you an overview map. It'll kind of say Dubai Mall and the date of the movement. It'll say the charter information in terms of how long it is, where their pickup point's going to be, the company they're with. Hey, they look at their pick, and the client is going to be Ignites. The vendor transfer ID number, the documents. Yes, they do have documents on there, so you can download them with the arrow, and then 50 bottles of water. So the driver is Neo. She's a great driver over here. And then the coordinators, the boots on the ground, they're assigned are going to be Ilva, and it shows Ilva with her hours, and then Gustavo, he's working as well. And the red icons next to them mean that when you touch that, it can contact those people. So the driver doesn't need to go look for numbers or anything. He just touches on the phone icon, and it links them right to the phone numbers of those particular coordinators. Special requirements, you guys are getting a police escort. The language of the drivers, they would request it is Spanish and English, and the itinerary is 20 passengers. And then you can kind of see the itinerary. So they're going to go from Dubai Mall, Metro Station, Landside D. You're going to arrive at the station at 1630 and depart at 1700. You're going to go to Expo Opportunity Lot, and you're going to arrive at 1740. So all that is there. Now, once you get your itinerary, what you can do is you can swipe either to the left or right. And then what you'll do is all of a sudden it'll come up with your routing map for the day. So again, we're using the map system, and it basically, our system is compatible with any map system, whether it's Google Maps, whether it's Waze, another group. You know, again, the client will dictate to us which API or which mapping system they want to utilize for that, and then we can cater to that, even Apple Maps as well. But you can kind of see when you swipe, it gives them a route in terms of what it is. They can start from that location in terms of the routing. Also, if they swipe again, they can see that they have information about the resort, or again, I use this as an example from a previous event, a resort. And basically the client, again, because our system is a library, it pulls up the data. This particular information is assigned to that route. So the driver or the host and the coordinators that are on the ground, they'll have this information. So it'll show the driver exactly where the pickup point is going to be. And then they have the option that they can print it. So if they're remotely and they need to go to a business center, they can have the option to print through air means through the internet, and also some of the signage there. You know, you got the Oswego State signage, so the group loves Oswego State, and they can go, and these are the support docs. Now what they can do is, again, the drivers and coordinators, they can swipe back through, and let's say we're the driver. And then what you do is when you go and you swipe up on your itinerary, is this will bring up the windows here in terms of now when the driver's leaving the yard, okay, it's depart to pickup. And one of the things that was great during World Cup in Russia and all the cities where Julia had to monitor 3 cities at one time, is that her staff would go and select departing to pickup, meaning that they would click that when they would leave their house, and on our tracking system, we could track to make sure that they're heading to the right location or not. And it would show up again in terms of the color code on the dispatch area. And so if you're a driver, you're departing to the pickup area, you arrive on site, you can start shift, and every time you click it, you can see in the lower left-hand corner my report, and it shows you where you're departing to the pickup, and it logs all that. So basically it's pulling the information from the dispatch system, and it's pushing it to their phone. And then when they're ready to begin the job, okay, they select begin job, and then what it does is it basically shows them, and it connects them to the next screen, which shows that they began the job and they're waiting on the client. So now what happens is, whether it's the coordinator, if the driver has coordinators, or if it's the driver himself, when they're ready to go with the passengers, they click depart with passengers, and again, that logs, if you can see in my report, the time stamp that they're going. And now going back to Neo in terms of communicating, at any time while they're on the curb or any time while they're waiting, they click write message. They'll send a message, and that message goes right into dispatch. And again, those notification areas that we talked about, they will notify dispatch that, hey, someone needs to speak with you on that. They can go into that particular move, and within the move itself, remember we have those chat boxes, they can communicate through the chat box, you know, the driver through this chat box here, and then the dispatch in their chat box. But everything stays within that particular move. And let's say, for instance, the driver also had to pay for parking. He can take a photo of the parking receipt, he can upload it, and he can send it, and they'll log into the system for finance later on. And you can take videos. Sometimes clients say, well, I want to make sure that my staff are on site. In Russia, we had them do a selfie. Do a selfie, shows that you're there. Post it into this thing. We always have timestamps of that. So if a client says that my bus was never there, my staff was never there, everything's within the system, and systems don't lie. Computers don't forget sometimes. So, so that's how we have things set up with regards to the app itself. And then if you scroll up again on the message, sorry, we couldn't show a full live version, but if you scroll up, you can see where you did the parking. And then at the end, you have your final report. Now, a driver cannot end a shift unless a task is completed. So once a task is complete, where the clients are dropped off, and it shows in my report that he ended the job, because remember up here we have end job. So when passengers are dropped, he hits that button. He doesn't need to go back. He can use that button multiple times, and it'll register on the report side. But when he clicks end job, that means he's finished the job for the day. He clicks end shift. Once he ends the shift, then this box pops up, and it shows you the timestamp of when he ended the shift. And now the driver can rate the host, and the host can rate the driver. So again, this is the same thing. So Ilva, you did a great job. The driver thought you did great. You got 5 stars, and you know, you're very nice and professional. And then Gustavo, great job as well, and he enjoyed your jokes. So Gustavo, you got great jokes. I guess the driver loved you. So you can kind of see, and what these star ratings do is no different what you see in Uber and for yourself and the driver itself, is that it percolates people to the top, and then for who great service, and those that are lower in the bottom that may need more training or may need some intervention from management side. And then you can use the ones that are top rated ones to assign them for priority moves that you may have in the future and everything. So in terms of the nutshell, that's kind of how the app and the the system all work together. Now, of course, the important thing is once the shift is completed and end, now what you can do is you can run all kinds of different reports. So what you're seeing here now is you see in terms of the vehicle usage, you have here is you have, this is from World Cup in Russia. So you can see in Moscow, you have the different types of vehicles and the different per day class. The highlights equal the event days. So those were matches in Moscow for World Cup. And you can kind of see the different number of motor coaches we use, the Sprinter vans, MPVs, the sedans, and you can go and you can report all that stuff to the media if they're asking for it, or in terms of the vendors or the clients themselves. And then you can also do a transfer report. And what's great about the transfer report is you select the fields for Excel spreadsheets. So I know, again, Excel spreadsheets, here we go again. But again, this provides a means of figuring out what you want to show to your finance people, what you need to show for a particular client, you need to show to a vendor. And all you do is you click on them to either make them blue, which means you activate that cell, that field to be printed out, or you deactivate it and you don't want that information shown for a transfer report. Then what you do is you get into the financial reports, which is important because you have the client financial report and then you have the vendor. So now you can do a comparative analysis between, you know, what you paid the vendor, what you paid the client, and you can add additional columns, for instance, for damages. So again, at World Cup, you had damages in the bus where people damaged the inside of the bus, and the vendor may say, hey, listen, the damage cleanup is going to be $100 US. But you tell a client, hey, cleanup is going to be $300. So in a warped kind of way, you can kind of derive revenues from different streams based upon certain things that may take place with regards to the vehicle report and the client report for the vendor and the client. And the important thing too is it builds your transport boards. So gone are the days where I can't tell you how many times me and my staff and me and some of the people on these calls have sat and busted our minds doing the transport boards. Now the system builds your boards for you based upon the bookings that you have. So that, again, the system generates all this information and data. You can combine it and sort it in any way that you want to, again, to help with your boots on the ground. And all this is available either on printable form through Excel if you need it, brain on paper as they're called, or on an iPad, mobile phone, all this information. Then you get the staff salary summary. So it's important for finances. You can show the scheduled hours versus the actual hours, their daily salary. These are all in rubles. So in case you think you're making 3,000 a day, I wish, that'd be great. And then any daily expenses. So that's the important thing to kind of show finance. And again, this can push back. So now finance can reconcile things daily, weekly, or monthly based upon what they have set up.
I just have a question. I mean, before you go on to your last one, because your system,
Sure.
I think one of the unique things is actually its connectivity to a flight tracker, whereby you can actually monitor flights. So maybe that's something that you want to explain a little bit more, because I don't think any others, I don't know whether there are any other systems out there that can actually connect to the flight tracker and actually give notifications to the dispatcher.
Do you want to take this? Yeah?
Second, I need to open the page.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Okay, yeah, so in terms of the arrivals departure side, so again, all that information is entered in the beginning when you do the booking. So again, you're dealing with your assignments. So again, it's a staffing issue. If you have staff that need to do the meet and greet side, you have the driver component again. So all the information that's collected about that arrival, the arrival patterns on the dispatch board, and again, I'm sorry for not populating that and showing you that, is that you can see the icons on there of the existing flights that are arriving and arriving and the percentages there. And then again, you can track all that via on the app or on the desktop. So again, it's a very robust system because now you're not guessing anything. People are knowing what's going on. The drivers don't have to go into their own API FlightAware. It's all within their app that's built through the TPT Hub system. So again, in the conversations between the driver and the boots on the ground, they don't need to contact the driver, say, hey, you need to pull up. Everything is within the system. Everybody knows when the flight is landed. Everybody knows. And on top of that, not only that, but also because of the logistics and DMS side, in an Olympic environment, you have to dispatch a number of logistics vehicles to deal with the volume of baggage that may be happening. So all that data is known in advance. So you're not reacting to it, you're anticipating it because it's in the system. And the system tells you the number of baggage. I mean, Julia and myself have done many Team USA team processings where we've dealt with receiving athletes in and sending athletes out to foreign countries for Olympic Games. And you know, we knew how much baggage, but everything was on a spreadsheet and you never knew what. And so in terms of departing, it was great because United Airlines, if we had a system like this, United Airlines would exactly know how much baggage we're dealing with. So Loadmaster could build his report in terms of what he would load on the plane. So that's how our system is set up. Everything is inputted in the beginning and it can be modified throughout as we know. Events change, things happen, things get canceled, things get modified. But anytime there's a change in the delay of the system alerts you of the delays. And so again, you're anticipating it, you're not reacting to it at the last minute or running around looking for the airport boards that haven't been up to date and, you know, forever.
Okay, clear.
So that's another system. Okay. So I just want to kind of wrap up in a couple of things. And again, thank you all for your time. There's a couple of slides that'll kind of show you the volume that our system can handle as we go through our daily totals here. This is a case study from World Cup Russia in terms of the match hospitality. So for the 30 days that our system was managing their system throughout 17 cities, operational cities, you can see where it says MSC, that's Moscow inbound flights met. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see we tracked over 7,831 flights in that time. We utilized a total of 1,243 vehicles, number of drivers. You can see the number of hosts we employed, volume, number of bottles of water consumed by our guests, and the total number of vehicle movements that were managed by Constantine and his team there. Normally in a system like this, you need probably 40 some odd dispatchers. They managed it with less than 15. So this kind of gives you a scale in terms of what our system capabilities are in terms of a massive large-scale event like FIFA World Cup. And then another one, we just had this happen this past week, and we're actually quite proud of it, is with Expo 2020, we started operating the system in mid-October of last year, and obviously we're still continuing with that with our friends there at Fleet, who are great to work with. But we just passed a milestone of 10,000 transfers being managed in our system. And also the other thing that they came to us at Expo 2020 Transport was dealing with QR codes, because the VAPs needed all the QR codes so we could scan to verify that these VAPs were in the system. And also on the back of the VAP, they needed a QR code to give routing directions through a map API to make sure that the guests, when they left their house, they could input to know exactly where they're going at the Expo area, because they had 37,000 parking spaces in this huge car park. But we were asked by them to see how we could manage the QR codes. And our QR codes at this time, as part of the postponement, this may modify, but we're proud to say that our QR codes will be on 240,000 VAPs and over 1,200 parking signs within the system to help guide people to know where they're going. And so that's a huge honor for us, because it just shows you the capacity of our system to help support it on the fleet, on the logistics side, soon to be the VAPs, staffing, and soon to be rate cards. But this is something that we're pretty proud of with our system. But this is a way to contact us, and the best way to reach us if you want a demo of the system is through support@tpthub.com.